should do a Google search, Venters, on David and Stephanie Brinson of California. David was in prison doing 4 consecutive life sentences because he unalived 4 people back in the 90s during a burglary, an armed robbery situation. He took 4 men's lives all by himself. He had a conjugal visit with his wife, Stephanie Brinson, and guess what happened on that conjugal visit? He went ahead and unalived Stephanie. Can you believe that? Stephanie went to the Mule Creek State Prison where she visited him for a conjugal visit for 3 consecutive days and nights with absolutely 0 supervision. Can you believe that? Makes sense though if you think about it. You can't really supervise somebody while they're on a conjugal visit. It wouldn't be right. But at the same time, does a person that's in jail or in prison for taking away 4 people's lives, does he really deserve a conjugal visit? She was visiting her husband. They weren't married in the 90s. They were married since then. So apparently her idea of a good time wasn't meeting somebody on Match.com. It was meeting somebody that was a prisoner living behind bars. Not the best idea, Stephanie, not the best idea, but God bless your soul. David Brinson still hasn't even been charged. Can you believe it? It's like obviously him. He gave a phone call at 2 a.m. to the police there, and he said that his wife wasn't breathing. It took them a couple of weeks before they finally realized that he strangled her and literally took her last breath, so to speak. It took them weeks before they notified family members that they lost their mom due to a strangulation. You guys might be thinking, this sounds unreal. No, this is what happens in California, where people do ridiculous things, and instead of people taking care of the victims and taking care of the prisoners and the people that deserve to be punished, we celebrate the bad guys and we hurt the victims in California. Here's the craziest part. Because they don't have a death penalty in California, he basically got to unalive his wife for free. Because what can you do? He was already serving his whole life in jail, and now, because of this, he's probably one of the few people in the world that get to do this with absolutely no penalty. What's a penalty for this to a jail or what's a penalty going to do in a state where they don't have the death penalty? You get to have your 5th unaliving on the house. Doesn't cost them a thing. Can they throw him in solitary confinement? I suppose. You go to prison to visit your husband. You're going to have a nice conjugal visit. By the way, she looks like she's in her late 50s and he looks like he's in his early 60s. I don't even know why a conjugal visit would be needed. Not to say people in those age groups don't have sex, but again, I just can't believe that a mother who has children would go to prison to do that. Like, golly, that just seems really embarrassing and shameful, to be honest with you. This is part of the Amador County Sheriff's Office. I don't know about you, but I would say between the judge and the penal system, I would say they're actually guilty of unaliving this woman, along with herself. I think we can all agree she made the absolute worst mistake. By the way, I can barely talk today because it's 92 degrees. Oh my God. Walking outside today felt like I was walking into an oven. So I want your guys' thoughts on this. Isn't this the most disappointing thing ever? You're a guy in prison. You've been in there since the 90s. You're never going to see the light of day. You get lucky because some beautiful woman, because let's be honest, for her age, she's a nice looking gal. She goes in there, marries this guy for whatever reason in the world. Apparently she wanted the record for marrying the worst absolute husband you could find, and she found him. She goes in there to have a nice 3-day weekend with him, which, by the way, apparently California is one of only a handful of states that still allows conjugal visits. Must be wonderful to be a bad guy in California, to know that the whole state and all the legislature and all the governor and the mayors combined, to know they literally bend over backwards for you, and then to know that women go in there and bend over for you as well. Absolutely disgusting state. But besides that, I feel great, other than this excessive heat. Could you imagine taking 5 lives? What would happen to you and me everywhere in the world other than California and some of these blue states? What would happen to a person like you and me? We would have our lives taken from us. In California, they'll feed you for the rest of your life, and they'll charge the taxpayers the money to do so. Absolutely disrespectful. This is the reason that they should, in my opinion, have the death penalty, because otherwise you create a situation where people can't be penalized. This guy literally got away with this, and there's absolutely nothing that California can do about it. Absolutely nothing. I wasn't expecting this heat. This heat is so atrociously bad that it's hard to even focus. It literally feels like 100 degrees out here. And it probably wouldn't feel bad if it was the summer, right? You'd be used to it. But the fact that it's happening this early in the year, it's just like, oh my God. And don't get me wrong, April is when things start to get hot here, and we're practically in April. It's just the whole idea that not too long ago, I was wearing a jacket because it was kind of cold outside. Kylie's mom says, why is a person who unalived 4 innocent people even allowed a conjugal visit? Kylie's mom, I'm going to tell you why. Because California cares more about the bad guy than they do the victims. This is why I don't understand why everybody in that state votes blue. Every time there's a problem, you can't solve anything. You can't fix it. Because even if you get rid of one mayor, you're going to replace one mayor with another one that feels the exact same way. Even if you disbar a judge, you're going to replace that judge with somebody that feels the exact same way. A bad guy like David Brinson, he took out his wife. Okay, well, at least he took out his own, right? But the point is, he would have taken out anybody. That's what people do when they are unalivers. They unalive people. The government says, can't imagine how many decent men she passed over before choosing the prison Pookie. For some reason, women don't like to go with their heart like they used to be famous for, right? You would see women, and sometimes they would be walking through the mall with the absolute most homeliest guy, but you would tell yourself, well, you know what? There's more important things than looks, and that woman really loves that man. It used to be like that. Now, women only want to date the bad boy. They want to date the bad guy. And again, if you take a look at this woman, she looks like the nicest Christian woman out there. How many wonderful men that would have protected her, honored her, and been in her life forever in a positive way, how many of them did she turn away in order to go out with this guy? This should be a message to all women. If you're dating someone in prison, that doesn't say horrible things about them. They're already a horrible person. They're living in prison. It says horrible things about you. Why would anybody want to be associated with that? And it goes the same for men. If you're dating some broad that's in prison, you have a horrible judgment. I'm telling you, I don't like criminals at all. I don't care if a person's been out of prison, living the righteous life for the last 10 years. If you unalive somebody, you're so lucky I'm not the king. Because if I were the king, I would say, I don't care how long you've been out of jail, I'm going to round you up and throw you back under the jail. So again, blue people, you should love Orange Man, because if Jesse Man was the king, oh my God, heads would roll. It's like, number one, I'd like to think that most human beings are decent people. The problem is the decent people that are Democrats vote for policies that enable people like David Brinson to commit his 5th unaliving. Thou shalt not kill the innocent. This David Brinson guy should have left the earth in the 90s, just like his 4 victims. I love Democrats. My family is a bunch of Democrats. My viewers are a bunch of Democrats. But I think every now and then you have to look at yourself and say, maybe I'm wrong. You guys are so wrong with these policies. All they do is ruin the country, ruin the state, make victims feel helpless, make those that do crimes feel emboldened, and it's just awful. Anonymous Z says, no sympathy, she is stupid. I'm sure if she could talk now, she would forgive him. You're probably right, but here's the thing. I don't think we should talk bad about people that have passed away. I think she made an honest mistake, but here's the crazy thing. Her kids were upset that they hadn't started an investigation yet. Kids, he's in prison forever. There is no justice at this point. You're in a state that doesn't allow for these people to be put to death. Since you're in that situation, you might as well not even worry about it. There's absolutely nothing they can do. What are they going to do? Take away this guy's ice cream on Fridays? Hey, no ice cream for you, Mr. Brinson. There's nothing that can happen to this guy. Why? Because you guys have made your state where there's nothing that can change. That's why every day there's like, what, 3,000 or 4,000 people a day that just leave California forever? That's what happens in all these blue states. Here's the thing that's so crappy about it. They go to red states where there's hardly any crime, and then what they do, they vote for these same blue policies that ruin everything. And in the process, because they're so used to being taxed up the yin-yang, they end up raising property values in the surrounding states, making all these red states purple. Like, seriously, how are you going to run from this horrible state and then vote for policies that bring it to the next place that you live in? Absolutely asinine. Asinine, assa 10, assa 11. Absolutely crazy. And by the way, to my Democrat viewers, I love you. I don't want you to unsubscribe. I just get pissed at this. I have so many people that come up to me out of the blue. Apparently I look like a Democrat. They come up to me out of the blue at the grocery store and, God, I can't believe this president. He's such an a-hole. And I'm just gonna call it. Today is the worst walk ever. It's just miserable. I feel like my body is sticking to itself because it's just hot and miserable. My shoulder's hurting. I really feel like I'm starting to age. Doing push-ups and sit-ups, staying away from sugar, still fatter and heavier than I want to be. Does this sound familiar? That's why we walk together, guys. Sometimes there's going to be ups and downs. You got to get through these. Today is one of those days where it's a little bit tougher on me. I honestly don't care that somebody lost their lives in a conjugal visit. I just get irritated because why can't it just be comfortable? Why can't we live in a world where it's like 70 degrees every day? Why can't it be that way? Why can't we all get along? If we can't get along now, I have a feeling we're never going to get along. Right? Things are good now. We have food on the table. Most people have a vehicle. Most people either have a house or an apartment they can rent. Yet men hate women. People of all different races tend to not get along. Religions have always been against one another, right? You're forced to kind of not say words on certain platforms like YouTube and stuff, and it kind of goes against everything we've been as Americans our whole lives. We've always grown up with the ability to say anything and talk our minds, yet on these social platforms you have to censor yourself. It's really irritating. So anyway, I want to apologize to you guys. Sometimes the walks aren't necessarily the best. As a matter of fact, this walk today felt downright forced. Normally, what I would do on a day like this, where I came outside and it was just blistering hot, this would be one of those days where I would suggest you get in your car, drive to Planet Fitness or wherever you have a gym membership, and walk indoors. That's the one thing about having a commitment to the Venters and walking with you guys that sometimes is a pain. Sometimes the outside weather does suck, but you know what? Some of you guys have been dealing with storms and blizzards and the whole 9 yards, and I'm assuming you're still finding a way to walk. Here in Arizona, there are no storms, there are no blizzards. It's just the oven. It's hot every single day. So with that being said, do what you gotta do. Find a way to walk, even if it's just from one side of your house to the other, because the walk must go on. The walk must go on.